This is USVI News, your Virgin Islands connection.
Hello, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us today for this edition of USVI News. I'm Brissa Bradfield. Emily Matson has the day off. We start today on St. Croix, where a 24-year-old man was shot and killed while cutting grass at work. It all happened Wednesday around 9:40 in the morning in Bethlehem Village in a state profit. Police arrived to find the victim, identified as 24-year-old Jorge Saldana, lying on the ground with multiple gunshot wounds. Emergency crews rushed him to the hospital where he underwent emergency surgery, but later died from his injuries. Investigators say Saldana was at work cutting grass in the housing community when a man dressed in all black with his face covered approached him, then shot him multiple times and fled the scene. Anyone with any information on this one is asked to call the Virgin Islands Police Department at those numbers there on your screen. And unfortunately, this was not the only deadly shooting in the area on Wednesday. Police got called back to the Bethlehem Village Harvey housing community around 7:45 p.m. They arrived to find a man lying in the staircase of a building with multiple gunshot wounds. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Investigators say the victim, identified as 47-year-old Jose Barrios, was leaving a family member's apartment when another person ambushed him, firing several bullets at him with a high-powered rifle. Anyone with information in this case is also asked to call police. This marks the 18th homicide on St. Croix this year. Well, meantime, there was a desperate plea from the Humane Society of St. Thomas. They need people to foster animals so they do not have to put them down. Staff at the Humane Society says they currently do not have even one cage open to help another animal. So in a few days, to free up some cages, they will be forced to begin euthanizing animals. On your screen here are just some of the many animals who you can save from that fate and foster to help out the shelter during this time of overflow. The Humane Society of St. Thomas is not a no-kill shelter because they receive thousands of animals a year, and they say 2022 has been especially tough with animal intake because of an influx in strays and owner surrenders. It's a dire situation, and if you are able to help by fostering an animal, you should contact the Humane Society of St. Thomas at hsttdesk@gmail.com. Also on St. Thomas, Government House is working with Liberty Communications to improve wireless communications on the west end of the island. Residents in the west end have been complaining about poor cell service for some time. So Governor Albert Bryan says they're working with AT&T Liberty Communications to find an alternative communication site to provide complete wireless coverage in the area. We're told the existing site will not be used, and a new communication site will provide enhanced cell phone and internet coverage to the farthest reaches of the area. Connectivity in the West End is oftentimes spotty or non-existent, so finding a new communication site is part of the Brian Roach administration's initiative to upgrade wireless communications throughout the territory. After the working group identifies feasible sites that meet communication requirements, representatives from the government and Liberty will meet with residents of the West End to discuss plans for the site, now a timeline on when service will improve, and address any other concerns they may have. And President Biden has announced what he's calling a game changer, the forgiveness of up to $10,000 in federal student loan debt for borrowers making under $125,000 a year, and an extension of the pause on payments until January. But while tens of millions of Americans stand to benefit, progressive Democrats say it's not enough, and Republicans call it a handout for the rich that will only worsen inflation. Elise Barr brings us the latest from Washington.
A new lifeline for roughly 45 million Americans drowning in student loans.
It's a lot more expensive than what our parents were paying.
President Biden announcing he's canceling up to $10,000 in federal student loan debt for borrowers who make less than $125,000 a year. Low-income Pell Grant recipients getting up to $20,000 in forgiveness.
To finally think about buying a home or starting a family or starting a business.
The Biden administration also announcing one last extension through the end of this year in the pause on federal student loan payments.
These targeted actions are for families who need it the most.
The president making good on a campaign promise to address student debt, though falling short of the $50,000 cancellation advocates had pushed for, while pointing to a broader problem.
The lack of state investment in higher education, and so students and their families have had to debt finance to fill in that gap.
Top Republican leaders slamming the debt relief as a slap in the face to working families without loans, arguing it'll only worsen inflation.
You cannot add that to the debt at a time where the debt is at near record levels and inflation is a huge problem.
The outrage over helping working people with student loans, I think is just simply wrong, dead wrong.
President Biden insisting that lowering monthly costs for millions will bolster the economy, bringing benefits to society as a whole. In Washington,
And that was Alice Barr reporting there. And meantime, we do have some really good news for families struggling with those sky-high grocery bills and gas prices. The cost for a lot of these staples is finally starting to come down, and in some cases, way down. Tom Costello has everything you need to know and how you can save money.
This morning, much needed relief for families from the skyrocketing cost of living, with fresh evidence that inflation may have peaked earlier this summer. Though prices are still a lot higher than a year ago, there is a silver lining with many new deals available.
Some of the areas that we're really seeing some good bargains for consumers right now as that demand falls off or the supply picks up, I would say clothing, apparel, footwear, consumer electronics, personal computers, smartphones.
And there's more good news at the grocery store where prices are coming down for many key staples. So far in August, the price of boneless, skinless chicken breasts down nearly 24%. The cost of eggs dropping 60%. Milk and butter also cheaper, as are prices for hot dogs and tomatoes. The sky-high cost of travel is also coming down. Gasoline now at $3.90 a gallon nationally, down from $5.01 in June. And airfares expected to drop 50% after Labor Day. Hotel and car rental rates also slowly coming down. In this volatile economy, consumers are also changing their habits, spending less and trying to save more. One survey found nearly half have cut back on discretionary purchases. 35% putting away more money for emergencies, and 19% saving more for retirement.
It's going to be important for folks to make financial decisions that give them some flexibility and freedom to withstand all these future uncertainties.
Consumer experts say if you're in the market for a new car, buying a used one may make better sense right now. Supply chain delays mean new car inventories are still super low and dealer prices are sky high, while inventories for used cars are going up and prices are starting to fall. As inflation seems to be plateauing, experts say one of the best money-saving tips involves your credit cards. If you carry credit card debt, it's going to cost you more as interest rates continue to rise, sending your balances even higher. It's why experts recommend paying off your card balances in full every month.
To the extent that they can avoid those fees, that's money that they're essentially saving.
And switching gears now, you might not be able to buy a car that runs on gas in California by 2035. Yes, that's more than 10 years away, but there's a vote on it set for today. It's a step towards zero emissions in the state, and the California Air Resources Board expects the measure to pass. If it does, it would be the first ban like it anywhere in the world. The state's governor already signed an executive order mandating all vehicles sold there to have zero emissions by 2035.